What's going on, Auburn fans? Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We are talking about Auburn football. If you feel compelled to join and become a member, please do so. You can see that big join button in the front when you come onto the page. Big War Eagle to anyone who wants to do that. Also, I was kind of thinking about it. There are a lot of fans out there that are not Auburn fans. Of course, they're not Auburn fans, but they're SEC fans and they just want to be nosy. Excuse me. Yeah, they just want to be nosy. They want to see what we're talking about here on Vernon Speaks Sports. Get those types of guys all the time. Again, like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Of course, in about 2 or 3 months, we're going to arrive somewhere, right? As far as the Auburn football season goes. You got your summer camp, you got your fall camp, you got your guys that sign letters of intent who will be coming on campus, and really highly anticipating this football season. Now, I want you to do as I ask in this particular part of the video, because I think Auburn has a really interesting subculture. But for this case, just not to get too wordy, I want to call this the crowds, the different crowds. Okay, so leave the number next to the crowd you think you belong in, because I think it's real compelling how Auburn's crowds are. One, leave a number 1 if you're part of the 4 and 8 crowd. Now, let me tell you who the 4 and 8 crowd is. Those are the people that think that Auburn's going 4 and 8, obviously. They don't think Auburn has a snowball's chance in hell of doing really much anything. I think these are the safeguard. This is the safeguard crowd. They're trying to safeguard their emotions and make sure that they don't, go into the season talking too much trash and then get disappointed. But now the 4 and 8 crowd, this is what they're going to do. Excuse me, because they do this all the time. The 4 and 8 crowd is the crowd that's going to shift once Auburn, say, gets a unlikely win over Georgia. Then the 4 and 8 crowd is going to be like, well, I kind of, in the back of my mind, kind of halfway thought Auburn could be good. But, they kind of shocked me a little bit. But War Eagle, right? They're War Eagles. When they scream War Eagle in the middle of the season, it's the loudest of anybody. 4 and 8 crowd. Okay, so I'm Team Harsin crowd. Put a 2 in the comment section if you are Team Harsin. That means you think that Auburn did a great job in hiring Brian Harsin. You're ecstatic when you found out that he was coming back after all that foolishness that went on during the offseason. And you feel really good about what he's doing recruiting-wise now. You're Team Harsin. You like the fact that he's going to trying to build relationships with, other departments, high school coaches across the state of Alabama. You are absolutely Team Harsin. Okay, so number 3, Brian Harsin can't recruit. We're just going to skip that. If you believe that, put a 3 in the comment section. And last but not least, number 4, put in the comment section a number 4 if you're especially if you still talk about Gus Malzahn, because we got a lot of people in my comment section that still absolutely talks about Gus Malzahn. I don't understand why. I mean, he may come up every now and then. Maybe if there was a recruit that, was being recruited by UCF, maybe we think that's interesting. But I don't know. Either way, put a 4 in the comment section if you're part of that, the we should have never fired Gus crowd. All right, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I get a chance to see what kind of crowd we're dealing with. So if you could, please do that for me. Do me that favor. So, as we dissect the first 6 games of the 2022 season, this is a little more difficult to unpack than it would be with, say, another team. Auburn is a very unpredictable team. Auburn has shown that they cannot be trusted even in the games like Mercer and San Jose State, for example. Let's talk about those two. The last 2 times Auburn took on either San Jose State or Mercer, those games were dangerously close down the stretch. Matter of fact, to the effect of, in the Mercer game, same year Auburn goes to the SEC championship game 2017, beat two number ones within 3 weeks. Earlier in that season, I'm pretty sure, almost certain at this moment, as Auburn finds themselves 5 minutes left, game 17-10, Mercer just scores. Nobody in that stadium at that point would even dreamt that Auburn would even win another game, let alone accomplish the accomplishments from 2017. So here we have it again. The world has turned many ways since Auburn played that game, and now Auburn finds themselves with a season opener against the Mercer Bears, who compete in the FCS. The FCS is the entity of football. It has an NCAA sanctioned playoff, as does the Division II. As you probably did not know, the college football playoff in the Power 5 is not sanctioned by the NCAA. That's some private sector stuff that the conferences have kind of gotten together. And it seems like the SEC and the Big 12, the SEC in and of themselves, they kind of arranged it to where the SEC will play each other in a national championship game. I think that's pretty weird considering you have a conference championship to settle all that out. But either way, you let a team like Cincinnati sneak in mainly just to prove, you pair them against Alabama to prove that they don't belong in the first place. But okay, I got a little bit off track. Now, Auburn takes on Mercer. This is going to be a 7 o'clock game. Why do I mention this? I mention the 7 o'clock part because Auburn fans, I don't know how other fans think, but the time of the game really means a lot to Auburn fans. 7 o'clock game, perfect. You get to tailgate the whole day. Hopefully you're not too inebriated by the time the game comes on. Should be a pretty mildly non-eventful game from an anxiety standpoint. Typically, this is a game that the fan on the outside looking in thinks that Auburn should win, no problem. Not always the case. Auburn fans, there are a lot of Auburn fans who, I'd say maybe a good 30% aren't too sure about this game. One, because of what happened last time, and two, a lot of fans just don't know what we got. So they're going into this game with a little bit of anxiety, definitely saying things like, man, I'm sure glad we're not playing Oregon first this year. Sure glad we're not playing Georgia first this year, right? But still a game you just can't walk in and say you're going to run away with. Next week, you got San Jose State. Kind of the same situation. San Jose State plays at a higher level, not quite Power 5, but plays at a pretty reasonably high level. They're not traditionally successful. So this is another game that Auburn should win. The game before, the tough one, Auburn actually hammered San Jose State. This was back in 2014 when Auburn was attempting to go back to the national championship. San Jose State beat them 59-13. Okay. This is supposed to be the tune-up before the Penn State game. Now, when we get into this Penn State game, an element that I would imagine, because it kind of caught me off guard, element that I could kind of imagine is the fact that this game is going to be played at 3:30 p.m. 2:30 Central Standard Time. How unfair, right? This was supposed to be a night game. This was definitely not supposed to be a game that is going to be have Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler as the freaking announcers. So it's already a tough game, and then we're going to have the annoyance of those two, especially Gary Danielson. Now, back on track. Revenge game for Auburn. Auburn participated in the white game up in Pennsylvania last year. It was an amazing event to see on TV. I can only imagine what it would be like during the actual game. Tailgating scene, probably crazy. Fan scene, I mean, like I said, the atmosphere that Penn State created, I mean, it just couldn't have imagined anything better. So, this is the game. Just like it was last year. This is the game that if Auburn is going to turn some heads in any kind of way, this is the game they got to have. Got to have it. Absolutely got to have it. One, you're at home. Two, in my opinion, based on what I've seen of Auburn recruiting-wise and what was coming back, talent, 4-star, 5-star, not many 5 stars, but 4 stars, 3 stars, athletes. I think this is a game that Auburn can win. People call me crazy. They've called me crazy before, but I was absolutely right about what I was saying. But people found out I was right in hindsight. Okay, so a very winnable game for Auburn. Hell, all of them are winnable, but very winnable here. The following week, Auburn has another home game. Against Missouri. Now, this one is very intriguing. We don't quite know what time this game is going to be played yet. I'm assuming, just for the sake of assumptions, considering all who are playing that week, I think this is going to be a 4 o'clock game on the SEC network. I think this is going to be a casual game. Auburn celebrating homecoming. Definitely a game that Auburn should win. Now, the 4-8 crowd, let's just say Auburn does what they are more than capable of doing up to this point. You got one more game, and you're going to have to jump back on board. Auburn takes on LSU that following week. LSU's got a lot of stuff going on. Got a brand new coach. Got a culture change. Sliding away from the old Ed Orgeron culture. Kind of solid at quarterback. A lot of positions, though, are, still kind of up in the air as to what everybody's going to be doing. Definitely a good game for Auburn to catch LSU off guard. Okay? I just think so. You're back at home. First time in a long time, if ever, Auburn beats LSU 3 times straight. Not saying it'll happen, but that's the scenario as we look at how to navigate through these first 6 games. All right, so week 6, we're at the last game. Auburn has the unique opportunity and privilege of going to Athens, Georgia, a place that they have not won in a long time. Not only have they not won in Athens in a long time, a lot of the games have recently not really been close. Other than the win against Georgia in the 2017 game, this game is starting to become, we still get excited about it, but I'm pretty sure from the Georgia fan base, they're starting to see this game as obsolete. Rival mainly right now because of historical purposes. So, Auburn better hope like hell. Auburn better hope like hell they execute the first 5. To the effect of 4-1 at worst. 4-1 at worst. Going into the Georgia game. The paper says Auburn doesn't have a chance. I say that too. I don't think Auburn is that bad. I don't think Georgia's going to blow Auburn out. I think Georgia just has too much. They got too much. They've been recruiting too well. That thing is starting to overlap. We talked about overlapping in recruiting some years ago when I first started this thing. Now you're starting to see that in Georgia. You've been seeing it in Alabama. Now it's starting to plateau to where it doesn't even matter no more. We're more intrigued about what Georgia's doing, about what Texas A&M is doing, right? We know Alabama's doing it, and it's just old. They're still doing great, but it's just old news. So with that overlapping in talent, I think, you look at a scenario and, you're going to Athens. It's just tough, man. I just don't think Auburn, even with a lot of the talent that Georgia's losing, had several guys in the first round of the freaking playoff. The first round of the NFL draft. But, yeah, I look at this game as not a chance. I hope I'm wrong. I doubt I am, though. So here's what we got. First 6 games, very worst case scenario. Auburn goes 2-4. That means they beat Mercer, they beat San Jose State, lose all the other ones. Middle tier scenario is Auburn goes 3-3, beating Mercer, San Jose State, and Missouri. Those are games that I pretty much have inked in that, you know, Auburn should pretty much have a high percentage of a chance to win. Starting in the upper case scenario, we get into the 4-2 range. This is a case scenario where Auburn beats Mercer, San Jose State, Missouri, and LSU. Okay? That means Auburn loses to Penn State and Georgia, which I think is when you start comparing all of it, I think that's probably the more higher end of the optimism case scenario. Last but not least, you got the best case scenario. 5-1. Auburn sweeps through the first 5, runs into a brick wall in Athens. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this video. What do you think about the first 6 ball games of the season? Like I said before, please become a member. Also, leave a comment. Make sure you tap into the types of crowds at Auburn, the 4-8 crowd, the I'm Team Harsin crowd, Brian Harsin can't recruit crowd, and the should have never fired Gus crowd. Like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger.